And welcome into another edition of the pH Factor here with Project Home as we explore all areas of our operation, our nonprofit. But this month is Energy Awareness Month. It's also Weatherization Day coming up. So we're really gearing up for the winter season with weatherization. And today, to kind of talk a little bit more about the other side of the programs that help with energy assistance, furnace assistance, and also weatherization, we bring in some guests. They are from the Department of Administration, Division of Energy, Housing, and Community Resources, Mary Meunier and Karen Baker. Thanks, Mary and Karen, for joining me today.
Sure thing.
Yes, thank you.
So quickly, tell us a little bit about each of you and what you do through these programs.
Well, I serve as the lead weatherization program analyst for policy. And that means kind of developing the policy for the program. Each year we have to submit a grant application to the Department of Energy. And then also that includes developing a weatherization policy manual and supporting documentations for that.
And I am Karen Baker, and I am also a program and policy analyst with the Division of Energy, Housing, and Community Resources. My specialty is the furnace program. So Wisconsin is very lucky to offer a solution to our state residents who have issues with their furnaces and maybe don't have the funds to pay for a repair or a replacement. And so I coordinate the furnace program then within the weatherization program.
I know both these programs are income qualified. There are a number of qualifications to receive assistance. But can you tell us a little bit, and we're going to get into some slides in a minute, but a little bit about how much more you're expecting people to need some of these things this year?
Well, this year we're expecting people to need a lot more assistance from these programs just because of the COVID pandemic. And there are a lot of people that have lost their jobs, been out of work, and now they would be eligible for the program. So in a future slide, I'll show you some of the income criteria, what we're looking at, but what we look at now is the 1 month previous income. And if you meet that criteria, you could be eligible for energy assistance and weatherization and furnace program, and even other crisis assistance.
All right, we'll pull it up now and let you two kind of take it away from here to really tell us about all these incredible programs and some of the assistance that is available to people right here in the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you, Jason. So we operate our program in Wisconsin kind of under the umbrella of Home Energy Plus. And I'll give a little bit of an overview, but under this umbrella of Home Energy Plus, we have the Wisconsin Home Energy Assistance Program. That's what the WAP stands for. Then we also have the Home Energy Plus Furnace Program, and Karen will talk a little bit more about that. And I will cover the Weatherization Program. So eligibility, we look at previous 1 month income. So in this little chart here, we have the household size and what the annual income would be to kind of give you an idea if that's kind of how you think of your income. And then what that 1 month income would be as well. New this year, we have an application for energy assistance online. So you can go to the energybenefit.wi.gov and complete your energy assistance application online. Or you could call 866-HEAT-WIS, that's 866-432-8947, and ask them on where you would apply for energy assistance, because it would be based on your county. If you do have access to the computer, then you could also go to our homeenergyplus.wi.gov page and click on the Where to Apply tab, and that'll show a map of the county and where you would go to apply for energy assistance. We do get funds for the weatherization program from the U.S. Department of Energy. Typically, it might be about 8 to 9 million per year. That might change a little bit based on any federal allocations as well. We also receive 15% from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, their low-income home energy assistance program. On state statute is a requirement that 15% of that goes to weatherization right off the top. So we have those additional funds for our weatherization program. And then we also have the State of Wisconsin Public Benefits Program. And these are funds that are paid in by ratepayers and collected by the utilities. Typically, it might be $3 to $4 on each month utility bill on your electric bill. So those funds come into the state of Wisconsin, and then those are also dispersed between the three programs. It's kind of a split between 50% to each of the programs, with the exception of furnace program, that's a little bit less. In Wisconsin, we have a really substantially great program, and that's thanks to the utilities and helping to support us in this initiative.
Now, Mary, I'm sure you're going to give us some more specifics on this, but can you give people just a quick general idea of what these programs are that you're talking about? What is weatherization exactly?
Sure.
And what that means?
Original weatherization program did come out of the U.S. Department of Energy, okay? And it was really in response to the oil embargo in the 1970s. So the first generation of the weatherization program was 1975 and kind of to 1979. You might recall this is the time where people waited in line to get gas at the gas station. We had a statewide set-aside program for fuel, and deliveries would be made based kind of on priority where they needed fuel. So back then, things were a little bit different in the program. We really focused more on low-cost measures. It was the simple things that were done. It has advanced substantially over the number of years. Then the second generation was 1979 to 86, and we continued to focus on the low-cost measures, things like caulk, weather stripping doors, windows, and attic insulation. Typically, attics are pretty easy to insulate, and they give us a great energy savings. But back then, we didn't have our diagnostic tools that we have now. The third generation happened in 1987 to 96, and we started to integrate more of a whole building approach, looking at the house as a system. What we do to one area impacts another area. And in this time frame, we were also able to implement more mechanical, specifically heating systems into the program. At first, that was not really a priority at all. And then in this time frame, we also had more of a structured training and technical assistance program. Originally, the program was kind of, I think, designed to be more of a jobs training program. I don't think people realized the talent and skills that one needs to really thoroughly weatherize and do the diagnostic work on a home. And now we're in our fourth generation, which also included the additional funds across the country. $5 billion were added to our weatherization grants, and that was dispersed across all the states and territories and tribes. And many knew it as ARA or ERA, but it stands for the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. And that occurred in 2009 when we had the recession. Again, a lot of people were out of work. It was a difficult time. So we were able to, make some real great headway with that, with those additional funds that we had. And at that time, we really kind of moved to more of this highly trained crew. Project Home has crews that they use. And we'll show a map in a little bit so you can see, where that would be throughout the state if you're interested in services. We also implemented a cost-effective measure. So we have our energy audit that's done on the home. And for DOE funds, we need to have a savings to investment ratio of 1 or better. Basically what that is saying is the savings to investment ratio for each dollar we spend, we are getting a benefit of $1 in energy savings. So We also implemented a greater emphasis on health and safety plans. Health and safety can include things that relate to lead, asbestos, and of course now we have COVID that is also part of that health and safety plan. And that's a plan that assures that we are addressing the homes in a safe manner and that we are keeping our crews, contractors, and occupants of the home safe while we're there doing the work, and safe afterwards when we've completed the job. So we're testing in, we're testing out to make sure that we're not leaving the home in any compromised condition. Those advanced diagnostic tools, in the slides to come, you'll see a little bit about some of the tools that we use. And we've also had a national comprehensive evaluation. In Wisconsin, we try to do our self-evaluation study every year. Sometimes it doesn't happen every year. We've done it every other year, but we're trying to get on the track of doing it every year. It really helps us to give us a better sense of the policy changes, if we make them, what kind of impact that's having on the homes.
Mary, you mentioned in here, the ARA 2009 influx of funds into the program and investment across the country. That's actually how I got my job here. That's what opened the door for me to get into this really interesting industry of weatherization and just understanding, learning building science, learning about, how houses work and can work more efficiently and better, and then how all of that impacts our energy conservation and usage, but then helps our environment at the same time. And then what it does for local jobs and economies and all of that too, just seeing the whole picture. So, if that investment wasn't made, I might not be here. I might not be talking to you today. So that was a big thing for me. And I was one of those people out of work at the time.
Yes. Well, we're glad you're with us, Jason.
Thanks, appreciate it. Okay, continue on.
Okay, we'll go into the next, just to kind of cover, a little bit about what is weatherization. We weatherize almost all types of homes. So you can kind of see here more of a rural farmhouse setting. We do weatherize mobile homes. We have a number of those throughout the state. And the bottom left, we have kind of more of a multifamily setting. Currently, we weatherize up to 24 unit multifamily buildings. And then just kind of to show as well, some of the houses we work on are not that large, but they've never had any insulation installed in them. The other part is, our network. We don't do this all just by ourselves here, Karen and myself. We have a network of 18 grantees that are throughout the state. Today we're with Project Home. That would be, I think it's number 16 on the bottom in the pink there. They serve Dane and Greene counties, but we have agencies all across the state that serve the households and tribal members as well. So some of the agencies are quite large. They have a good number of counties, especially as you get further north. Part of that is there aren't as many people that live up there. There aren't as many, metropolitan areas like there are kind of in the southern part of the state. So, as I mentioned, 18 of our contracts that we have with community action agencies, local housing authorities, and not-for-profits. Then in Milwaukee, we actually have 3 providers. We have Social Development Commission, Partners for Economic Development, and La Casa de Esperanza. So because Milwaukee County is quite large and there's a lot of eligible households there, we do have 3 providers that serve that area. The priority of services really goes to the households with the highest energy burden. That's part of our formula that we use. So if they have high energy expenses, that's what we're going to be using. Also, we're looking at, elderly, senior citizens. 60 plus is what we're looking for age-wise, and give priority to those individuals in those households. And persons with disabilities, doesn't matter what kind of disability is. they would have priority. And then also families that have children under the age of 6. And I think that age is based on that. Most children by age 6, they would be in a school setting. But now we have almost everyone virtual education. A little bit on the benefits, as Jason noted, it really does help the living conditions, and there's greater comfort in your home, not only in the wintertime, but also in the summer. I think some people maybe don't quite think about it that way, but the insulation in the attics and the walls and the air sealing that we do brings greater comfort all year round. As I mentioned in the health and safety plans, we are improving occupant health and safety in their home, and we're reducing their financial burden. So these families don't have to make such difficult choices all the time between, do I buy food or fuel or prescriptions, or, do I not give my child or grandchild a birthday gift this year because I can't afford it? But we're really trying to help them reduce their energy burden. And then as we look at the bigger picture here for Wisconsin, we are reducing our carbon emissions. This is a key initiative to help improve our environment, our air, water, land. And it does reduce our dependence on energy imports. Energy imports is a big part in Wisconsin. We are importing a fair amount of energy, although we are starting to see some transition to wind turbines, and you might refer to them as wind farms, windmills. And we've seen a lot more solar PV arrays that the utilities are incorporating. And then our non-energy benefits, think about this as your community. We're helping to revitalize your neighborhood, right, in your community. The job creation, Project Home hires people. They hire professional trade contractors such as HVAC, some insulation, electricians, plumbers. There's just a variety of folks that are used to help weatherize these homes. And then we also do measures that help in your water reduction. Currently, we are pilot testing the use of high efficiency clothes washers to help reduce water use. And then we also do a lot of things with aerators and shower heads. And the greatest benefit for some of these families is their health conditions are so much better that they're missing fewer days of work, or not missing as much school, or even better yet, if they routinely have to go to the emergency room or have hospital visits because of asthma or other, again, compromised systems. After weatherization, this can really help improve your personal health while living in the home.
Yeah, Mary, one of the things people repeatedly comment on, customers, are the bath fans that we often put in to, of course, for moisture control, but also to help with whole house ventilation. But they love the bath fans. So it's always nice to have a good working bath fan, and so many houses don't have that. So
Right.
It's a small part, but it's a big part.
It is a big part. You're right. A lot of houses, especially older homes, don't have a bath exhaust fan. In the days of COVID right now, that ventilation and exhaust is really important as well. As you're probably seeing in the headlines, everybody's talking about ventilation in restaurants and bars and things like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about cost savings. As I mentioned, we try to do our self-evaluation study every year. And you can see that we've, started back in 2015. And back then we had an average savings of about $550 per household. And that maintained through up to 2018. 2017, that dropped a little bit. Again, because we look at cost savings, that has a big impact on fuel as well, as we see more natural gas expansion. And the cost of natural gas hasn't risen nearly as much as some of the other fuels have. Again, a few years back, we saw the LP fuel shortage. LP was very high priced, and fuel oil was very high priced too. So that all plays into the model here, what we're looking at. And right now we're at about an average savings per household of $440. So that's a blend between electric cost and natural gas costs. So that's pretty nice. If somebody walked up to me today and said, here's $400, would you like that? And we'll weatherize your home. I'd say, yeah, that's better return on any investment that I would ever see at a bank right now. So a little bit about where the savings come from. We see our best savings from insulation and air sealing. And that you can see on the green bar is our attic insulation. If a home doesn't have any attic insulation, that will certainly be completed in the home. And then the next is wall insulation and other, which could be foundation, box sill, crawl space insulation, areas like that. And then air sealing, again, gives us a good bang for our buck. Air sealing is important because if you're not stopping the air movement, you're still having air move through the insulation, then it just becomes a filter for that air. And air sealing is important as well for longevity of the building. The next piece where we get a savings is our heating system replacements. And if there's other heating system work that needs to be done, some of the homes that we're in maybe don't have adequate ductwork, maybe haven't really been maintained that well. So when we're in the home, we're looking at all of that. We also see great savings when we do fuel switching. There's electric water heaters. We would try to switch those to a gas, whether it be LP or natural gas, or incorporating even some combined type units such as a boiler that you could also use to heat your water. Some of our smaller savings that we see, but still meaningful, is things like refrigerators and freezers, and the category of other, which would include LED light bulbs that we're installing. It's those faucet flow restrictors, shower heads, some of the smaller things that we're putting in. Our whole building approach really gives us a good savings to investment ratio on these homes. A little bit on the weatherization process, kind of getting back at your question, Jason. So when you apply for energy assistance, that is the conduit into the program. I mean, we have a big statewide system that we use that all our operators can log into and work with to maintain tracking and report progress on the individual jobs that they're working on. But the referral is made, and that after that referral is made, based on those factors that I mentioned earlier, the high energy burden, if they have a household with elderly, disabled members, or young children, those individuals have a priority, and they would get an energy audit done if the home has not been weatherized in the previous timeframe. That's really where they're going out and looking to see what needs to be done in this building. Now, today, a lot of it is computerized. We have, tablets that they're using in the field to collect the data on, and then they are using a computerized energy audit as well. So final inspection is our final piece, and we have the agencies do final inspections on all the jobs. Now, if it was the person who did the energy audit or worked on a crew, they cannot do final inspections on their own work. And then as a state, we are also required to do a quality control inspection on a minimum of 5% of the jobs. We do try to do 10% of the jobs as well. A little bit about how this timeline works. First, you have your WAP application, and then the energy audit is completed. We require that the energy audit be completed within the first year of their eligible date on their application. Then after that, once the audit is completed, we allow 1 more year for them to complete the work in the home and report the job as a completed unit. If a person applies for energy assistance, they're put on a priority list. If they can get there and do the audit within that first year, wonderful. And then if they can do the work within the next year, great. Now, again, a lot of people are on a waiting list. We don't have unlimited budgets and demand is pretty high. So not every home will get weatherized right away. So the audit, this is where they're really out on site doing their inspection. They do diagnostic testing and health and safety testing. And this is kind of where I noted before, you test in. We want to see what the situation is. Otherwise, if you don't test, you don't know. We're doing our data collection. The auditor is going around looking to see what amount of attic insulation you might have. Do you have a fair amount of air leakage? They can tell some of that through the diagnostic testing. They're looking to see, what's the condition of your heating unit, refrigerator, freezer, if you have them. So just really an inspection of the home to see where there is potential for energy efficiency measures. Then after they're collecting that data, as I mentioned, they've got tablets that they're using. They're then incorporating that into a computerized energy audit. We call it the Weatherization Assistant. Here is the tool that we use, also known as the National Energy Audit Tool that was developed by the National Lab, Oak Ridge National Lab. So we're determining what's cost-effective measures for installation. Because it's a government program, we're looking to do cost-effective work. Some of the things that we're commonly doing, here we have a little attic insulation that they're blowing from the exterior. In the top, this is one of our kind of diagnostic tools that we're using. It's an infrared camera, so they can use it in the beginning of the job, and they can use it in the end again as a quality control mechanism. And this individual is looking at the walls and seeing, probably trying to check to see, did we have any voids or gaps when we did the wall insulation? Then on our bottom photo of a crawl space here, we're typically going to be installing, if it's a dirt floor, we're going to be putting in a moisture barrier and then affixing that to the walls. And you can see here we have some spray foam that was also used in this crawl space. So if the home has a basement, we'll look at the box sills and see if there's potential there or if there's any floor insulation that might be needed.
Yeah, it's interesting. All these little tricky spots within homes, that people don't think about, but that's where so much of the work is done and so much of the work is needed. And so I think it's really nice to show those visuals. One thing about the infrared cameras too on audits, such a valuable tool, because even if homes maybe they had some wall insulation, we've all seen this over the years, how different types of insulation, different, homeowners maybe tried to install it or somebody installed it at some point and didn't install it correctly. We see gaps, we see voids, we see things where they tried to insulate those walls, but they didn't quite do it well, or the insulation didn't hold up over time. And you can identify those things with that tool too, which is just incredible.
It really is great. And of course, it works best when there's a greater temperature difference. So some of the other measures, what you're seeing here is a house that has some house dams, serious ice dams on it. You can see that the roof is bare in certain spots. Typically, this is going to mean that attic doesn't have any insulation and it could use some air sealing. So if you're driving around and you see houses that look like that, likely they don't have any insulation and they need some air sealing work. After a snow, if you have a well-insulated attic and air sealed, it would just sit up there. There's no heat penetrating up there to help melt that. And then, of course, that melting snow creates those ice dams and icicles there. And that can really, wreck your roof, your gutters, your eaves. So these are some of the improvements to the housing stock that result because of the work that we're doing. So the other photo is attic insulation. Again, some homes might have insulation or they don't have an adequate amount. So we're trying to go back up there and put an adequate amount of insulation there that's still cost effective. And then on the lower photo, we're showing wall insulation. I'm thinking this is a home here with some vinyl siding. They're drilling holes in there, inserting their tubes to blow the insulation. I mean, we're not doing rehab here or remodeling, so this is the approach that we're going to be taking. In some homes, we would maybe even insulate from the interior, depending upon what the exterior condition is of the wall. More of the common equipment repairs or replacements that we would do. Water heaters are done sometimes. And the middle photo here is an old inefficient heating system. How can we tell? You can tell by the gas exhaust going up into a chimney. High efficiency furnaces today are going to use a double pipe system. That would be what we would require. And it would typically be going out the sidewall of your home. And then if you have an older refrigerator, we would replace that as well. If you have a freezer, that might also be a candidate for replacement. So sometimes we have to do repairs on some of that equipment. If you already have a high efficiency furnace, but maybe it needs a repair or some other small improvement, we can go back and we can fix those too. The final inspection piece. So we have a screenshot here of what it looks like on the IR camera. So it's kind of showing there's a void in one of those walls area where you can see gray variation there. So that's a tool that we're using to help with our quality assurance and final inspections. And then we also use the blower door, which is the red hooded fan there that you see. So this is our blower door that we're using to determine air infiltration and exfiltration in the home. Part of our final inspection is we want to make sure customers are satisfied with the work and that we're leaving them in a safe environment. That's very important to us. A little bit about weatherization that we don't include. Typically, we're not installing doors. There might be some situation where it's considered a repair and we might include a door. We do not service air conditioning here in Wisconsin. We do not do new roofs, and we're not replacing windows. And I know people hear a lot of ads, or that's what they first think they're going to get when weatherization comes, is they're going to get new windows. Well, typically, we're not going to get any energy savings with a savings to investment ratio of 1 or better. The energy savings just isn't there. So if you have a broken pane of glass, we could repair that. But again, it's not going to be thinking about some of the windows you see in window commercials. As I mentioned, we're not a rehab program. There are other programs through the Division of Energy, Housing, and Community Resources that can focus on some of these bigger cost items. And certainly a solid roof is important. Each agency receives a contract to work in the counties that they service, and that depends on, how many low-income individuals live in that county. What are some of the energy costs? So typically what we're seeing is, homes that are maybe in more rural Wisconsin. That's where we're typically getting our biggest energy savings from.
It is a very large program, requires a lot of people, and a lot of good work is being done through that. So
right.
Thanks for telling us all about that, Mary.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else that we need to touch on?
I guess I would just kind of add that, each agency that we work with as our sub-grantees, It's their decision if they want to hire crews, if they want to do procurements with professional trade contractors to do some of the work. So it's really, we leave some of that up to our individual agencies to determine how they want to implement their program based on our policies.
And as you showed before, there's agencies statewide that cover every county. So
And tribe.
And tribe. And so regardless of where you live in Wisconsin, this program is an option for you if you meet the financial requirements.